Alex. 15 years ago, this tree was planted, and while I was a different person at only 22 years old, I was probably much like you. It's hard to realize that sometimes the small action you take could just be your biggest stake. Let me explain. We eat a piece of fruit and we spit the seed. We drink a glass of water and we ignore the tree. Essentially, if we just approached it differently, if we ate the fruit and planted the seed and watered the tree, and clearly we'd have a different story. We'd have more seeds, which is more trees, and more birds and more bees. And more bees means pollination, which means more trees, which means more seed. That's my dog, Kong, but this is my story. The story is really about the action you take that is the difference and the most important stake. Everything has a story, but every story is more entertaining when it has more things. 5 years ago, this puppy was abandoned and found in a shed by a man. That's how I acquired him, and he's my son. His name's Kong. My son helped me build this wildlife habitat pond. It's something that we still love today. He enjoys swimming in it all the time. And it's amazing to see how all the little plants have grown up and become more and more contributing parts of this ecosystem. And since the first installation of that pond, it's expanded and we've added so many more plants and seen so many different cool animals come and approach that pond and get the water they need. Some animals have found this pond naturally, and we've introduced a few, like some minnows that were inside a puddle on the side of the road that was drying up. About 50 of them, all starting to shake around and looking like they needed help. It doesn't take a lot of money or resources to create a nice wildlife feature in your yard. I acquired my first pond liner for free. Somebody was throwing it away. I bought 3 bags of concrete and created a stream from an old water tub that they were using to ice beer down during Gator National sporting event. And it just takes a little effort and the vision and foresight with the overall goal in mind to achieve these things. I think you'd really be surprised if you just talk to people and find out some of your common goals and interests, how willing they are to help you achieve them. And many times you can work together and help achieve things that you could have never done by yourself, or they could have never done by themselves, for a greater cause, a greater good. This pond's much larger than that original pond I built. In fact, it's about 4 times bigger, and I didn't spend a single penny. The person that had a large pond just so happened to have a lot of excess pond liner laying around. And I said, please, I'll take it and I'll use it. And the most incredible thing, mysteriously, a bullfrog showed up, but not just one, several, and even small ones now. So there's some sort of breeding population of bullfrogs right here in my little cluster of ponds I've created, which only gives me more fuel and inspiration to keep it going. It can be difficult to really fully understand the value that little wildlife ponds can add to your yard. In fact, it can be difficult because some of the things that happen are never witnessed by human eyes. I can't tell you the number of migratory bird species I've seen flock around my pond, or birds that might not be so migratory that might have just come by for a drink and never passed by anyhow. But wildlife is always happening, and all the little opportunities you present for wildlife to take place and give them that chance, the more encounters you're going to experience while you're in the great outdoors. This is a beautiful fire spike bush, and I can't tell you the number of pollinators I've seen, butterflies, hummingbirds, even moths, grasshoppers, lizards, spiders, all because I decided to plant that seed in the ground and let it grow and give it a little water to start that. The first couple trees and plants I planted in my yard, they roasted up immediately because it was so hot. I didn't have irrigation installed. You'd be surprised that no matter how many times you fail, just continuing to grind and move forward towards some goal, that eventually you'll find a new solution and you'll achieve that, just like this. Now this is kind of like a fairy garden fail. It's supposed to be a fairy garden, but I have had trouble keeping the clover out. Clover is probably my arch nemesis as far as invasive plants or non-intended plants go. but not sure exactly the species of this cactus, but it's got some wicked thorns. I pulled all the clover out just to show y'all this cactus. One of my favorites though, because it's kind of a clumping variety, so that's pretty hardy and slow growing cactus. See what I mean about the clover? And just like that, it's been taken care of. Another example of, the gnomes. I think that adding little garden features to your cacti can really, make them appear more lifelike and actually enhance their size a little bit. This is a pretty large one. I've had this one for about 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of like a hair cactus, one of the ones that has a hair. It had a nice bloom on it, big bright yellow bloom that now has all those seeds. I'm not going to plant them. And then this type of weed is also prolific in my potting soil that I use. Now this cacti has been in my possession for about 5 years. It was the size of just one of these segments, and then of course every year I get like a new segment as it goes through the seasons, but it's starting to split, so that'll give me more opportunities to divide this in the future. Once I kind of get a nice mother plant going, I'll be able to take cuttings off of this, and I'm going to show you all how to do some cuttings here in just a little bit, just to show you all why I do what I do. When I walk out the front to show y'all some of my cactuses, there's just deer right in my front yard. And it's not the deer specifically that I'm super excited about. It's the wildlife in general. When I moved here, this was kind of a desert. I mean, in my opinion, it was just grass. And I had added all these plants and trees and basically created a sustainable ecosystem here for many, many, many species. I do feed the deer right up here. But I mean, like this bigger tree you see right here, that wasn't there. That crepe myrtle was a seedling. So in the 7 years I've lived here, it's turned into my mother tree, my home tree. And I feed the birds here and I feed the deer here. Mostly overwintering for the birds, but I feed the deer all year round. I have a water source for them that turns on every day, twice a day. They drink it up, they get fresh water, and they're able to sustain here. They can sustain here indefinitely, really. I mean, because I have tons of foliage. They love loquat leaves. That tree over there, that big tree, the big one back there. But what I'm going to show y'all today is how to make a nice cutting. And basically, this is one of my apple cactuses. Not exactly sure of the variety, but it is a pretty cool cacti and real resilient, real cold hardy. I've been through some of the coldest winters that we've had here and very minimal frost damage. Actually, I can show you some of the frost damage at the top right there. That's just because that was the tenderest growth. That's frost damage. Or at the top of this right in there, the darkening, that callousing, that's frost damage. But these trees, or these cacti, have bounced right back. Some more of that dwarf cacti just kind of growing right in there. And let me show you a couple more of these cool cacti I have on property here. I know I mentioned that some of these cacti can actually produce fruit. Now this is a prickly pear cactus, and it produces some really delicious fruit. Those pears on the top, those green things will turn bright purple, and they are good when they do. They're kind of like, ironically, dragon fruit. So because they're the same family, I guess. They're both cacti. But this is another cool cactus over here. Kind of my Peruvian apple cactus garden in here, but I don't know what this is. Looks like Medusa's hair, but a real resilient and cold hardy cacti. It's everywhere now. It's spreading all over. It's hit the ground, come down, come up and around. It's all over the place. And then just, that was just a piece or two of prickly pear, and it just kept growing. It don't stop. And come around to my true cacti garden area. This garden here, it's going to be more of a testament to the true nature of cacti. Real poor soil, just poor soil. Nothing but sand. So sandy that hardly the grass will grow in here. I added these beautiful, epiphytic plants, these lichens that just grow on the ground. Those are said to be symbiotic relationship between algae and I think a plant or something like that. It's weird. They're a unique species, but that's one that is actually flowering right there, and that's a Peruvian, or no, that's one of those beautiful cacti, the real cold hardy ones right there. And what that is a mid cutting. But let me stop. These cacti have some serious thorns, god dang. Oh, These are like bristled. It's this one. This is a native variety of prickly pear cacti. It doesn't get nearly the size of the fruit, but these are the fruit here. These here, and they're edible as well. But there is a nuisance also, not to me, but to the cacti. It's an insect known as, God, those are bad. An insect known as Cactoblactis cactorum. It's a nocturnal moth species that actually will lay its eggs on the needles, and they'll sprout, 15, 20 baby larvae, and they'll embed inside of the cactus pads, and they're really prolific. And those larvae turn to moss, and they spread super fast. Gestation period is real short, and they're devastating to the prickly pear. Not so much these other cacti. However, I have seen one instance where they got into another kind of cacti, but only the one time, and not so much on mine. Coming up on one of my largest cacti in my yard. This is how beautiful those prickly pear actually are. This one's ready to be ate right here. Actually, that darker purple one's probably a little more ready. But this is a thornless variety, really delicious fruit here that you can eat. And basically, you just kind of skin them, and you can like saute or fillet them. You could saute them, but just fillet them, get the skin off, and just eat the fruit. And there'd be seeds inside there. A couple more of this. So that Cactoblactis cactorum moth does something similar to what you see here. It almost skeletonizes the cacti, but they're so abundant that once they get in, and they go mid-plant, they'll come down here, kill the whole stalk. So that's why some of these are so short, because they come in, they've knocked some of these down. But they typically affect the really large thorn varieties. And this one. This one, I think, it might be a native variety. It doesn't get real big, but there's one right there. That's the invasive insect colony right there. So they do this. They burrow in, and they'll, oh yeah, okay, so that's the non-invasive variety. That is also the cactus moth larva, but that's the non-invasive variety there. So I'm not even going to bother, but yeah, those things are a pain in the butt too. But yeah, you see? And this one gets some decent sized prickly pears on it. There's the size of those prickly pears there. And here's it compared to the last one we picked. This one's a little overripe, but it's a lot bigger than the last one we picked. But even though these are edible and decent size, those prickly pears on the large prickly pear cactus plant I have are so much bigger. They're like 5 times bigger than this when they're in bloom. And they're really juicy. And so just a little brief tour of my cactus collection. And the next video I upload is going to be me doing some propagating, and I'll teach y'all the right way to propagate some of these cacti. So let me show you this last cactus up front here. All right, we're coming up on it now. Made this rock structure here. That rock structure is about 5 foot 6 inches tall. And this right here is the largest cluster of cacti I have. And you'll see over my head height. And I kept it trimmed. Like, let me show you all the cuttings I made. Cutting. Every one has, multiple cuttings where I've kept it light, and that'll help reduce large stems breaking off. But not only will it help reduce that, it'll also, I was doing my cuttings primarily to slow down Cactoblactis cactorum, because as you can see here, it's a real problem here. So at one point I had the furthest north population of Cactoblactis cactorum. The University of Florida came here, alerted me to its presence. I didn't even know about it. And then after they alerted me, they started appearing, and I don't know why, but yeah, so there's some pretty active colonies. This is active. This is within the last, so I'll just break this whole pot off. And it hasn't gotten down to the next stem yet, so that's good. We might have, I don't know if we got ahead of them or not, but we'll take this one out of here and just throw it away. So basically, I'm trying to get my channel to stay monetized. They gave me like an alert, said that I didn't post enough. I wasn't having enough watch time. I want to do some videos to help other gardeners and motivate people to see what is possible. My next 2 videos, one's going to be on propagating cacti, and the other one's going to be on cold hardy fruits And then also I need to do one on the air plant or epiphytic plants, and some other stuff too. So if any of that interests you, please let me know and share my videos if possible, because I need about 200 watch time hours. And I'll try not to walk into giant spiders like this, because they are real out here, y'all. These spiders are real. And when I say they're real, I mean they're really real. Like here's another one right here. But see, I know my spiders. I know where they all are. This is a different variety than the last one. Last one was the golden silkworm weaver, and this is the garden spider. And the zigzag web gives that away. So let's throw away Cactoblactis cactorum and just say thank y'all for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.